Hello, beautiful soul, and welcome to the Little Reader's House. I'm the Little Reader. You're in my house. They also call me Amanda, so feel free to use that old thing if you want. And we're here with another rock. One that is very, very special to me. Talking with Spirit about what's coming out today. And as I do this, being overwhelmed with a feeling of joy and a feeling of something that the kids are calling the slow life. Have you heard of this phenomenon? It's the idea that you develop a life that is tender, loving, gentle. It moves at a pace that is not rushed, not forced. A gentle stream, that slow life. There are memes on the internet about this slow life, and it's aspirational for so many people right now. And it's the energy we're sitting in right here. To think that we're in a time in human history when we're shifting away from an obsession with accomplishing, producing, creating. And I don't necessarily mean artistically creating, but making something where there wasn't something before. The intention behind it is different for the individual. In this world over here, the focus has been on doing. And now, with the slow life, the advent of the slow life, the focus is shifting to allowing. And if we look at that energetically, it's movement from the masculine, yang, yan, projective side of the pendulum swing to the gentle yin, feminine, receptive side of the pendulum swing. What a time to witness that shift and to feel that shift. The slow life is much needed. To experience healing, one way of thinking of it is to experience the opposite. So when we're healing an abandonment wound, to experience the opposite, acceptance, ownership, is healing. When we're healing the wound of never being heard, never being acknowledged, never being validated, to experience the opposite is to be listened to be celebrated, to be honored. We can see this in social movements at this time in history. We have groups of human beings, living, beautiful beings, who are celebrating themselves socially, openly, because so much time was spent for these groups abandoned, rejected, hidden, muted, ignored, or even vilified. The slow life, the energy of peace, stillness, It's healing the wound in every single soul who has felt rushed, who has felt forced, who has felt overworked, who has felt burnt out, who has felt drained, who has felt helpless, who has felt enslaved, who has felt trapped, who has felt used, as if their life force was not their own to control. Spirit indicates a shift in autonomy. And the autonomy is moving away from power structures like employers toward, for example, one of many, self-employment. Moving away from saying yes, even to beloved friends and family, and saying no in favor of cultivating restoration, cultivating rest, cultivating non-doing. And Spirit is applauding this. In this transition is so much joy. The energy and frequency that was depleted primarily, I can see from this aggressive lifestyle of accomplishment at all costs, at the cost of health, at the cost of peace, at the cost of human intimacy, emotional intimacy, at the cost of authenticity. Joy was one of the primary emotional fruits to atrophy in this setting. So little joy in an overly focused need to do in order to become. And then by the time the becoming is complete, for some that's retirement, for some that's achieving a goal, this way of behaving has become such a habitual routine that it's almost impossible to get back to the present moment. And in the present moment is where 100% of our power lies. In the present moment is where 100% of our joy lies. The more we push out of the present moment, the lower our power range goes. So let's say you and I have 100% of our energy. It's ours. When we're in that present moment, we can realize 100% of that. Anything that you and I create from the present moment is going to be 100% incredible, 100% empowered. One little thing created in the present moment with 100% of our focus, our divinity, our awareness, has the power to touch multitudes. Whereas one big thing created as an afterthought with minimal presence, with minimal care. Be cautious of associating attachment with presence. That isn't what I mean here. When a project or a thing is created with the mind and the awareness elsewhere and the heart just completely disconnected, no matter how big of a thing that is, no matter how quote-unquote well thought out it was, if in the doing and the creation act there's no presence, then there's nothing for spirit to spread. There's nothing for Spirit to do with that because it's vapid, it's void, it doesn't possess life. Meanwhile, for the individual like yourself who brings 100% of their presence into the moment, whether it's to work, cook, clean, sit, look at a rock, the presence of this moment, 100%, that's the magic. And anything created from that space is infinite. It's alive. And again, Spirit wants me to make it clear. It's not about attachment. You can be 100% present with something and be completely unattached to the outcome. In fact, when you're 100% present with something, there's no room in your being, in your mind or your heart or your body, your form, to be attached. There's no space because you're so busy being absolutely present with that thing, offering up your entire soul on a dish and say, hey, here I am. But for those of us who are still in this fast life, that's what we're going to call it, of accomplishment, of doing, of creation, the degree of presence that we bring to any enterprise is going to determine the degree of infinity, how far that enterprise can go. If an individual can live the fast life and be fully present, well, that's a whole other matter, darling. But Spirit sees the transition to the slow life as beneficial for all of us right now, because there's so much healing to do, so much presence to bring into this form, so much presence to bring into the body, into the mind, where there's been so much distraction caused by the speed of the fast life. So now the pendulum swings to the slow life. And then Spirit says the slow life will become the fly life. Not in terms of the slang that's so fly, kind of. Because when we stop obsessing about time and stop focusing on how little or how much of it we have, it removes itself from the equation. Then we don't have to be about a slow life or a fast life. We're just flying. And the trajectory that comes from that flying is determined by our soul's rhythm, by the purpose that has been injected into our souls before we onboarded into the human experience. And then that purpose catalyzes into reality. And the rate at which it does that is determined by how much of that purpose has been realized so far. So Spirit says, take someone who believes they're at the end of their life. They've got 5 years left. They've never lived a day, to their knowledge, in their purpose. They've never felt a day in their purpose. That's a better distinction. Because Spirit would pop in to say, it's impossible for anyone to not live in their purpose. You're part of the tapestry perfectly, even if you never feel that perfection. So we amend the word instead to say this individual has never felt a day in their purpose. They've never felt alignment with every action, every breath, every conversation. And now they only have 5 years left. For whatever reason, they just know it. They've lived combinations of the fast life and the slow life. Different reasons for different seasons. For a time, they were single, career-driven. Then they were a parent. Then they were a grandparent. And in all that time, they still feel as if they've missed the opportunity to live their purpose. When this individual aligns with their heart and begins to lose track of time by simply choosing in the direction of their heart's desire for everything. For breakfast, for vacation, for recreation, for work, whatever it may be. When this individual develops the self-love we've been speaking about this week and brings presence, whether their life is fast or slow, they bring presence to every emotion that they feel, to every environment that they're in. They devote themselves to coming alive, and they release the need to accomplish anything, whether it's a simple task or a grand scale project within a deadline, within any period of time. They surrender the time to the divine. Within those 5 years, Spirit assures the collective that that individual will accomplish the entirety of their life's purpose to the same degree as if they had spent every single day aligning with that purpose from the moment they escaped the womb. That individual, no matter how close they are to what they perceive to be the end, can catch up with the ecstasy of alignment with why they're here. Time is a non-issue. So if there is any modicum of urgency within you, let's take it, put it in our arms, kiss it on the head, and then surrender it to the divine, which is technically not out here, it's in here. Surrender it to the divine. Say, take the urgency, Spirit, and convert it into whatever you'd like. There's a Stoic principle that I, the little reader, love. Memento mori. Remember you will die. And it's a question I just asked Spirit. I said, yo, because this is what goes on in these moments. I'm having an entire dialogue. Sometimes. I said, yo, what about memento mori? Remember you will die. Is that not intended to inject a little bit of urgency into the equation. And Spirit says, it's not urgency to accomplish. It's urgency to be present. Time is running out, so forget about time and come alive in this moment. Time is running out, so forget about time rushing you and open the door to your heart so that it can guide you. Yes, time is something we live with in the third dimension, which is exactly where we are right now. You and I are in the third dimension right now. Well, as of the filming of this video. Maybe not as of the watching. In the third dimension, there are elements of time that guide us. But time, the purpose of it, Spirit says, in this context, is to give us the opportunity to become present. That is the purpose of time. So if you're watching time pass, or you're monitoring time, you're feeling like you're running out of it, or it's running over you, it's doing something to you, or you're doing something to it, that is a wonderful way to say, oh, I am not present. I am disconnected from my heart. I am either deeply in the realm of mind or not present with my mind either. A great question to ask yourself. Anytime you feel anxiety about time or anything, where am I? Where am I? Where am I? You don't have to answer it. Just asking the question is enough. In fact, inherent within every question is the answer. So, even if you don't get the words of the answer, by asking the question, you've created an energetic connection to the answer, because a question cannot exist without an answer. Whether your mind is in the right frequency to receive that answer as information is immaterial. Your heart is always able to receive the frequency and transmit it to you as an emotion, as an insight that bypasses the mind's ability to understand. So ask yourself, when time is taking a knife or a point or an edge to you, ow, ow, where am I? Where am I right now? Where am I? And even when time is not taking an edge to you, when you're having a wonderful time at a child's birthday party, or at your own birthday party, or when you first wake up in the morning, stretch. Where am I? Where am I? Where am I? Right now. Where am I? Joy. It's a byproduct of presence. It occurs in simultaneity with presence, just like bliss does. And just like bliss, depending on the amount of layers between that fundamental love bliss that makes up this entire universe and our point of reference, there are filters and layers created by what's happening in the circumstance we're in. what we're feeling about the circumstance we're in, what we're perceiving about the circumstance we're in, how well we like the circumstance we're in, all of these layers. But the more we practice presence, the more we're able to kind of bypass those layers with awareness. We get so good at looking at all of them and saying, okay, I see the pain, I see the desire, I see the frustration, and I see the need, and I see the bliss, and I see the joy. So, the joy, it's not just for joyful moments. It's always there. And Spirit wants us to know that every emotion is ever present always. In the white light of consciousness that we're all beaming out of us to illustrate this. Because Spirit wants to put a brief footnote. There is no out of us, technically. But that's for another conversation. In the perception that we have of having a body and having an environment, on that premise, we will say out of us is what's beaming out of us and into us from our environment. There's a white light of consciousness that animates us. And in that white light contains every color and every gradient of color, infinity colors. As such, that white light of consciousness also contains all emotions, ranging from bliss and joy to fear, depression, numbness, anxiety, anger, frustration, desperation, urgency. Then you have peace and bliss and joy and gentleness. And they're all there in that light of consciousness, all ever present, all within us. Actors are an amazing example of this. An actor knows this intuitively, instinctively even. Some of the great actors have been born with the knowing that they can pick and choose which emotion they want to feel or exhibit at any given time. And then you hand them a script, you give them some direction, and they're pulling the truth of that emotion out of themselves and exhibiting it so poignantly and powerfully that simply to be in the room is to get touched. But where did that emotion come from? They didn't experience a circumstance that caused it. They drew on something. Or they looked at the filters and they looked at their awareness and they chose, like looking at CDs, if you're familiar with DVDs, compact discs, all in a row in their cases, every emotion as a song. You can think of this on your Spotify or Apple Music playlist. Going down the list, every emotion a song, and they just plink, played the one that they want to hear inside of themselves and turned it on. But Spirit's aware. We're talking about actors. And we're talking about something that when actors do that recreationally, that's their passion. It's their gift, their talent to flip back and forth through those emotions and choose what they'll feel in a given moment, and they can sustain it for a short time. And then when the director yells cut, and they fly into a rage and go back to their trailer, or respectfully go back to their trailer, they go back to being a human who is at the will of the universe. If actors carried this ability to fluctuate their emotions everywhere with them, They would be saints and mystics that we were all like, teach me your ways to. And some actors do. Some display a proclivity for poetry and an understanding of the mystical universe. But human beings they are. Yoda, how'd you get in here? Human beings they are. And they're just like us. So, Spirit's not offering this as a solution. There's more to this insight. There's been a teaching before in this time-space reality that instructs beautiful souls like you and I to go to our emotions and simply pick out the one we'd like to feel and then ingest it. And while there's some wisdom in that teaching, that's not what's coming through today. That's not the advice. Spirit says that we have access to all emotions because the white light of pure presence, of pure consciousness, is in us. That's what animates us. That's what gives us life. So once again, let's do a quick life check. Am I alive? Yes. Are you alive? Let's see. Yes. Therefore, you have the divine light of presence within you. You have the divine in you. That means a lot of things. That means infinite power. But let's not skip ahead. Right here in this moment, it means that by virtue of having animated light of awareness with every emotion's potential in you, pure potentiality, my beloved teacher David G says, pure potentiality within you. The solution is not to attempt to change your state at all. You simply shine the white light of pure awareness onto the moment and the truth about that moment exactly as it's arising. And let the white light calibrate on its own. That white light of awareness will know what shadows to fill, what gradient of light is required to heal whatever is occurring. That is the purpose of awareness. You're quite literally shining a light in an area where it was dark. And now when light enters a room, the darkness disappears. It's not that the darkness goes anywhere. It's that it becomes the light. And the light knows how to do that. That's what makes it light. That's what makes it make me be alive. That's poetry. And that's what makes you be alive. Last time I checked, I didn't arrange this consciously. So I have to trust that the unconscious thing that arranged it also knows how to arrange the molecules of my darkness or my lightness, my isness, my truthness into perfect order without me having to mentally whip out a new technique and use it like, oh man, another technique, another tool. So many tools I've been given, so many tools that I've lost count. Can't possibly memorize them all. The beauty of our consciousness is that unlike the realm of mind, which functions like a computer, always computing, and it takes energy to compute, the white light of life, of consciousness and awareness doesn't require that energy. It is the energy. It's the energy that the mind needs to function. It's the energy that the form needs to function. But it doesn't need anything. Because it is the energy. It is what it is. Yes, it is. So, in our moments where we're like, hello, joy. I'd like some. How do we get some? we understand that the joy is going to be an inevitable, just like the bliss we talked about a couple of days ago, an inevitable byproduct of developing our awareness. So instead of trying to woman handle or man handle the emotion and wrestle it down, like George C. Scott in A Christmas Carol, if you've ever seen that version, from the 1980s, I think. It's one of my favorite films. There's a scene where he's wrestling with one of the divine visitors who comes to teach him a lesson on Christmas Eve. And it just turns into like his bed sheet or his carpet, the rug runner that he's wrestling with. We don't have to do that to our emotions. Instead, we just aim the white light of presence onto him and say, hi, hello, numbness. How's it going? Hello, anxiety. How you doing? Hello, frustration. May I caretake you for a moment? Hop into my arms. I'm here. And repeated applications of this awareness develops our own ability when faced with a circumstance. And all these layers of dissatisfaction, pain, frustration, filters, karma, everything. And then over here is the bliss and the joy. As we develop that practice of presence, that light gets so bright that it can just beam through to the bliss, beam through to the joy. It witnesses all of this. And yet it can always see the light at the end of the tunnel. And always, more importantly, feel the light at the end of the tunnel. And Spirit's saying that is the value in cultivating the slow life now. A movement to an intentional life. So for every single individual in the collective right now who has had it, who has lost patience with the aggressive form of accomplishment, and for so many of us, that comes from a place of being burned out and giving up. Because when you're full of energy, for whatever reason, is it energy or is it just caffeine? When you're full of energy, it can be easy to get seduced by the fast life, because when you're full of energy, it feels good to expend energy. That's why you have the energy. It's meant to be shared and used. And the fast life gives us the opportunity to do it. But when the fast life gets too fast, and now we only have 100% of our energy, but the life of doing and accomplishment is requesting 200%. The math is not mathing. It's asking more than we can give. So for some, you're ready for the slow life because you're burnt out with the fast life. You tried to give 200% for too long, and now you're depleted. For others, you've seen your parents, your aunts, your uncles, your friends live the fast life. You've seen what the product of that was on them. And you say, not I. So it's a preventative. You haven't experienced that burnout yet, but you already know you don't want to. Or you have burnout by proxy, being raised in a home, or being surrounded by friends and family who have been traumatized by an aggressive rate of living, irrespective of how that manifested for them: career, family, pure survival, 3 jobs, 4 jobs, jobs in school, no school, family and jobs, no family, no jobs, living on the street, whatever it was. Spirit celebrates the shift. Spirit celebrates the shift into the mindful, gentle, slower life. Celebrates it with the knowledge being transmitted to you now, beautiful soul, that it also won't always be like this. It also won't always be slow. This is a compartment of developing the ability consistently day by day to be present, to be aware, to listen to the heart. So it's no coincidence that the collective is pushing away speed zone and moving towards slow zone. But it'll also be no accident when individuals bounce out of slow zone and start moving into fly zone. Yes, these are the zones. Speed zone, slow zone, and fly zone. And Spirit's saying, don't try to get into the fly zone prematurely. Don't try to get into the slow zone prematurely. Don't try to get back into the fast zone if that's where you want to be prematurely. Because once again, there are individuals who are ready to be, who desire to be in the fast zone, the speed zone. Wherever you find yourself, let it be heart-led. It just so happens that an enormous amount of the population, their hearts are leading them to a slower pace of life. And that's a beautiful thing. Use that slower pace of life to turn all of your awareness to your heart, not your clavicle. That's where I just pointed back. I mean, sure, check out your clavicle. Is it okay? And then turn all of your awareness to your heart center. And that is where we're going to leave it today, beautiful soul. As always, it's been an honor. It's been a privilege. I am sending you all of the love I've got, more and more and more, and never less, because you are so very worthy of it. Worthy, worthy, and worthy. Until we meet again, beautiful soul. Bye for now.